Lions faithful, something just shifted in Allen Park. And if you've been paying attention to the subtle movements happening behind the scenes this week, you already know that this organization never sits still, never accepts mediocrity, and always finds ways to respond when adversity strikes. Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, your home for the most up-to-date news, exclusive insider information, and the deepest analysis on our beloved Detroit Lions. I'm here to break down exactly what's been happening in the last 72 hours, and trust me, what I'm about to share with you goes way beyond what you've been reading in the mainstream headline. This is about strategy, about depth, about Dan Campbell's philosophy of never backing down, and about a move that might seem small on the surface, but could have massive implications for how this team performs. Down the stretch, let me paint the picture for you. Coming off that gut-wrenching 27-24 loss to the Minnesota Vikings, a game that left all of us frustrated and searching for answers, the Lions front office knew they had to act. That defeat wasn't just painful because we lost a divisional matchup. It was painful because it exposed some very specific vulnerabilities that we thought we had addressed during the bye week. Dan Campbell himself took full responsibility in his post-game presser, admitting that the Vikings caught us unprepared, that they made key plays on special teams that swung momentum in their favor, and that we simply weren't executing at the level this team is capable of. Those words hit hard, but they also revealed something crucial about Campbell's leadership. He's not making excuses. He's identifying problems and finding solutions immediately. Now, here's where things get interesting. While the rest of the NFL world was focused on the trade deadline drama, on the big names changing jerseys and the blockbuster deals that never materialized, the Lions were working quietly, methodically, strategically. They watched the deadline pass without pulling the trigger on any splashy acquisitions, and some fans were frustrated by it. I saw the comments. I heard the criticism. People wondering why we didn't go after a big-name linebacker or add another piece to the secondary. But here's what I've learned about Brad Holmes and this front office. They don't make moves just to make noise. They make moves that fit the system, that address specific needs, and that align with the culture they're building here in Detroit. The day after the trade deadline, the Lions made their move. They elevated a player from the practice squad to the active roster, filling a spot that had just opened when Christian Mahogany was placed on injured reserve. This wasn't a random decision. This wasn't panic mode. This was calculated and purposeful. The player they brought up has versatility, has experience, has proven he can contribute in multiple phases of the game. And most importantly, he understands what it takes to win in this league. I'm talking about linebacker Ty Summers. And before you dismiss this as just another practice squad call-up, let me explain why this move is more significant than you might think. Ty Summers isn't a household name, I'll give you that. He's not going to sell jerseys or generate ESPN highlights. But what he brings to this Lions team is exactly what we need right now. Depth at linebacker, elite special teams play, and the kind of veteran presence that can stabilize a unit that's been inconsistent. Summers has been in this league since 2019, when the Green Bay Packers selected him in the 7th round. He's appeared in 86 NFL games, accumulated 90 career tackles, and has been a core special teams contributor everywhere he's been. That experience matters, especially when you consider that the Vikings exploited our special teams last Sunday, flipping field position and creating momentum shifts that ultimately cost us the game. Here's what makes this move even more intriguing. This isn't the first time the Lions have shuffled Summers around this season. They released him from the active roster back in October, signed him to the practice squad the very next day, and now they're bringing him back up. That kind of roster management tells me something important. It tells me the coaching staff values what Summers brings, that they see him as a solution to specific problems, and that they're willing to be flexible with the roster to maximize his impact when they need it most. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell aren't sentimental about roster spots. They're ruthless about putting the best 53 players in position to win football games. Let's talk about what Summers actually does on the field. In the 3 games he appeared in for the Lions earlier this season, he played 53% of the special team snaps and didn't see any defensive action. That might sound limited, but special teams are where games are won and lost in this league. Think about the Vikings game. They had a crucial punt return that set up a scoring drive. They won the field position battle consistently, and they made us pay for mistakes in the kicking game. Summers is the type of player who prevents those breakdowns, who flies down the field on coverage units, who makes tackles in space, and who brings an intensity that elevates everyone around him. But here's where the rumor mill starts churning, and this is where I need you to pay close attention. Multiple sources around the league have been whispering that the Lions are considering expanding Summers' role beyond just special teams. There's talk that the defensive coaching staff has been impressed with his athleticism, his football IQ, and his ability to diagnose plays quickly. With injuries mounting across the NFL and the playoff push intensifying, the Lions need linebackers who can step in and contribute on defense if called upon. Summers has the speed to cover in space, the instincts to read offensive formations, and the experience to handle high-pressure situations. Don't be surprised if we start seeing him rotate in on certain defensive packages, especially in obvious passing situations where his coverage skills can be utilized. There's another layer to this story that hasn't gotten enough attention. The Lions also made some housekeeping moves this week, releasing offensive tackle Justin Herron and tight end Kenny Yeboah from injured reserve after reaching injury settlements. Both players have been sidelined since the preseason, and while Yeboah in particular was expected to compete for a significant role as the primary blocking tight end, his knee injury in the Pro Football Hall of Fame game ended those plans before they could materialize. These roster moves freed up space and resources, allowing the Lions to be more aggressive in addressing current needs rather than holding on to players who won't contribute this season. What does all this mean for the Lions moving forward? It means we're seeing an organization that's adaptable, that's willing to make tough decisions, and that's laser-focused on winning right now. We're sitting at a crucial point in the season, facing a Washington Commanders team that just lost their starting quarterback Jaden Daniels to an elbow injury. This is a game we absolutely have to win, not just for playoff positioning, but for momentum and confidence. The Commanders are shorthanded, they're vulnerable, and the Lions need to take advantage of that opportunity. Having Ty Summers back on the active roster gives us more option, more flexibility, and more reliability in the areas where we struggle most against Minnesota. Dan Campbell has built a culture in Detroit that's all about toughness, accountability, and relentless effort. When he said the Vikings caught us unprepared, he wasn't making excuses. He was issuing a challenge to everyone in that locker room. The response has been swift and decisive. Bring back a proven contributor, tighten up the special teams, and make sure we're executing at the highest level in every phase of the game. Summers embodies that mentality. He's a grinder, a worker, someone who maximizes every opportunity and never takes a snap for granted. That's the kind of player you want on your roster when the stakes are highest out looking ahead. The Lions have a realistic path to winning the NFC North and securing a top playoff seed. But that path requires consistency, requires attention to detail, and requires everyone on the roster to contribute when their number is called. Ty Summers might not be a star, but he's exactly the type of player who makes champions teams work. He's the depth piece who steps up when injuries hit, the special teams ace who makes the game-changing tackle, the veteran presence who keeps younger players focused and accountable. Those contributions don't always show up in the box score, but they absolutely show up in wins and losses. So here's my analysis of this Ty Summers move. It's smart, it's timely, and it addresses a real need. The Lions identified a weakness after the Vikings loss, and they responded immediately by bringing back a player who can help fix that problem. This is the kind of proactive roster management that separates good organizations from great ones. It's not flashy, it's not going to dominate the news cycle, but it's effective, and effectiveness is what wins football games in November and December. Now, I want to hear from you, Lions faithful. What do you think about bringing Ty Summers back to the active roster? Do you believe he can make a difference on special teams and potentially contribute on defense? Are you confident that the Lions can bounce back against Washington and get back on track in the division race? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because your perspective matters, and this community is what makes covering this team so special. If you want to stay locked in on every Lions move, every roster update, every piece of breaking news and in-depth analysis, make sure you're subscribed to Lions News Fan Report. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And smash that like button to support the channel. Share this video with your fellow Lions fans because we're all in this together and we're all chasing that same goal, bringing a championship home to Detroit.